Hello, greetings to my great minds. Welcome to part two. We shall cover case studies and then after that we could discuss. Now, case study one is about the Treasury Secretary. Well, some of you might call them Treasurer. While in the religious group, I volunteered as the Treasury Secretary. My major role was to collect donations, account for them, and bank them. There's an incident that I wish to share. At the prayer group, we met every Sunday. The prayer mats were not in good condition. The welfare secretary decided to crowdfund for the purpose of replacing the mats. As a point of note, there was fraud in the prayer group a few years before. Hence, a lot of members became apprehensive. What we did as executive officers was to be transparent. We reckoned that this shall build trust and enable us execute the project. So each week we publish the income generated. I'm unsure if we included the donors, but the interesting thing is that even after we collected our targeted income and and started purchasing the mats, additional members continued to donate as they wished to be part of that success story. Some key learnings from this are the shift in thinking, the impact of communication, the impact of trust, the impact of strategy, the impact of leadership, the impact of execution, and the impact of transparency. Let's see another case study. This is about Ashiwaju Sam Harvard. He's one of the big players in digital marketing in Nigeria and Africa. He spent about 5 to 7 years in a Nigerian university studying physics and probably ended up with a third class. His passion was obviously not in physics. His passion was to make money and to make impact. As he continued his academic pursuits, just to tick the boxes, he stumbled on affiliate marketing while browsing YouTube. He was fascinated by it and saw the potential, especially in Nigeria. He spent time and effort learning and sweating during the day and at night. He penned down thoughts and strategized. He harnessed resources to accomplish his aim. He involved stakeholders, those who believed in his dream. He eventually made it big and is now accomplished. Some key learnings from his story are opportunity that knocks, him taking action, he having a vision, he finding ways and means to accomplish his vision. And after making it big, he decided to mentor others as part of his give back, as well as further monetizing the mentoring. Now let's talk about Linda Ikeji. She's a very celebrated Nigerian blogger, probably one of the top bloggers in Africa. She had humble beginnings and went through different challenges. In her teenage years, she went into modeling to support the family. She did different jobs just for survival. She's a creative and very introverted. She loved writing and actually wrote her first book at about age 11. Poverty and adversity played roles in whom she's become. She stumbled into blogging and developed her interests. She had a fair share of challenges, but has a great fighting spirit. She made sacrifices just to make ends meet. Her life purpose isn't about fame or money, it's about giving back and making positive changes, especially to younger girls. And the icing on the cake is that she is an alcoholic. She finished in Unilag. Another case study is Mike Adenuga. He's presumably the second richest man in Nigeria. He's hardworking, consistent, self-disciplined, and smart. He has multiple income streams. He studied business administration and initially worked in his father's business. He started in the oil and gas sector and then diversified to real estate, banking, communications, media and entertainment, etc. He's a shrewd and successful businessman. He's also a philanthropist. He's very determined and has great entrepreneurial spirit. The next case study is Muhammad Ali. Most of us are aware of Muhammad Ali. He was famously known for his boxing exploits. Do you remember dancing like a butterfly, stinging like a bee? I wish to zoom in to his famous fight with George Foreman. George Foreman was presumably stronger and probably more favored to win the fight. But Ali actually started his fight outside the ring. He explored psychology by leveraging his mouth and his mind. He had a fight plan to protect his face and head and keep George Foreman busy with doing body punches. And as a matter of fact, Muhammad Ali trained his tummy so that he could accommodate a lot of punches. Before the fight, he and his team understood George's weaknesses. They knew that he'd get tired sooner or later. As the rounds progressed, with George Foreman becoming tired, Muhammad Ali began his onslaught and knocked out George Foreman. It was a classic example of brain over power. Another case study is Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore. He became prime minister at age 35 and was very popular. He transformed Singapore by taking strategic decisions. He ensured that politicians were well paid but had a zero tolerance for corruption. He initially attracted talent globally and later on became an exporter of talent. Singapore was a breakaway from Malaysia. They have a population of about 5 million. He introduced good governance. He created systems and structures to attract investors. After his spell as prime minister, he became senior minister and minister mentor. Up until his later years, it was still very relevant. He created enabling environments to get the best for Singapore. He had his share of challenges, but he overcame them. Another case study is the bargainer. There was the case of a buyer who needed to purchase gifts for children. The seller, who was probably a struggler, gave the asking price as £5. The buyer continually bargained until it was £1. You could see the body language of the seller. He just needed to survive. The buyer smiled, so did the seller. The buyer was happy with his bargaining. The seller's thoughts were different. As the buyer continued his bargaining, an onlooking person purchased the lot and gave the seller £10 instead of £5. Does this situation resonate with you? Now, the final case study is about the employee and the promotion. An employer advertised a position for the post of senior marketing officer. It was an internal advertisement. Three officers applied for the post. The older member of staff is employee one. The second and third employees, let's call them employee two and employee three. On the day of the test, only employees one and two showed up. Employee one has been in the company for 10 years. Employee two joined just 2 years ago. Employee one is about 10 years older than employee two. At the end of the test, employee two was successful. Employee one complained of favoritism and tendered his letter of resignation. The employer then sat him down and showed him both test answers. Whereas employee one only had one word or one phrase answers, employee two wrote pages, not only answering the questions, but making suggestions on improvements. At the end of the presentation, of the explanation, employee one prostrated and agreed with the decision of the employer. This ends part two. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you got some value. Please consider visiting jacksempowerment.com and jacklookmanlimited.com. You could also book a chat with Jack Lookman via jacksempowerment.com. It's now time for part three. We shall have a discussion. What do you consider to be the different mindsets at play, either overtly or covertly, for the different case studies mentioned? Please feel free to mention mindsets and not those that are not included in the presentation, and then any mindset you want to formulate, they would also be welcome. Thank you very much.